Hey everyone, Brian here from NintendoEverything.com, and Daan has joined me to discuss this week's past Nintendo news. And hopefully I got your name right this time.
You did! Oh my god!
Remember I told you I was going to remember, so I did get it right.
You just listened to the clip multiple times, didn't you?
I didn't.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, we are back after a 1 week break. Just had a lot going on last week, but we're going to talk a little bit about the past week of Nintendo news. There actually wasn't too much, I would say, but there were a few notable things here and there, and we'll touch on them now. And one of them was Project Yooka-Laylee, which is now just Ukulele.
Yeah, very, very smart who they did that. That's extremely clever.
The way they worded it is pretty funny, the way they spelled it, actually.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know about this game, basically it's a 3D platformer from some of the former folks at Rare. Mm-hmm. And it is very promising looking.
Yeah, you can definitely say that. We've seen a whole bunch of footage this week, screenshots, and got a whole bunch of details. It looked really promising, and then they launched the Kickstarter. Oh my god, they launched the Kickstarter. And
it's a huge success, to say the least. I think it's one of the fastest performing games on Kickstarter, or maybe just projects in general.
One of the fast-selling games. There used to be another one with a slightly lesser record.
Right.
It was not the Broken Age or Mighty Number 9. It was some game that I can't exactly remember, which was a bit lower or a bit slower than Yooka-Laylee now. And they are now the current record holder of having the fastest $1 million in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's doing really well, and I'm personally really happy about it because we don't really see a ton of 3D platformers these days, and especially ones that are good, so it's nice to see people showing their support. And the funny thing is that technically they didn't even need this funding because they were going to make the game either way, but people are really showing their support.
Yeah, they said beforehand that they would find funding elsewhere if Kickstarter wouldn't cut it for them, but it looks like they don't have to find funding elsewhere because their initial goal was £175,000, and they reached that in 40 minutes.
Yeah, right now the campaign is sitting at over 1.75 million US dollars.
No, that's pounds.
I'm looking at it now. For me, it says $1,766,230.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for some reason it does it say to you in dollars.
Yeah, I think the change is based on your region.
For everybody else, 90% it still says pounds. Even I live in a European Euro country, it still says pounds for me. So it's close to its final goal, which is 1.2 pounds. I think it would hit that in the next couple of days, and they pretty much said, "Look, guys, stop doing this. We don't have anything else planned. We still have 45 days to go."
Yeah, they cleared all their initial stretch goals in less than a day.
Yeah, they got £1 million in that 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And that's really freaking impressive. That's $1.5, I think. $1.5 million, which is insane. But it also means that when the game is done in October 2016, everybody, so PC and Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and Wii U will all get it at the same time.
Yep, and that's a big deal because, again, we kind of knew that it was coming to Wii U and other platforms, but now we know it's going to hit all these platforms on day one.
Yeah, because they have the resource now to hire people to get the game done on time, which is really, really great.
Yep, and some of those stretch goals seem pretty interesting. There's a 2 to 4 player local multiplayer versus mode. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
And they now have the possibilities to add a whole bunch of host of minigames in there, which is great. I feel that they have now all the funds needed to achieve exactly what they wanted, and that's exactly what they need. I don't hope they get much more than that, and I'm not saying that because I don't want them to, but you kind of see what look with other Kickstarters, and it kind of can get to your head. So I hope it slows down a bit, just for their sake, so they keep their feet kind of on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And you said that this is targeted for October 2016?
Yeah, it says it on their wrap-up page.
Okay.
Where they're trying to have this done at the final moment at October 2016. So it could be earlier than that even.
Yeah.
But the page and the final award should be set out at October 2016, no later than that, according to them.
Yep. So far, we've seen pre-alpha gameplay, and apparently that was only done in like 3 months or something. And honestly, I thought it looked pretty decent from that.
Oh yeah, it looked fantastic.
So that's, it's pretty good to see it's shaping up so well right now. It's kind of a good feel story. People actually are supporting a really nice looking 3D platformer.
Yeah, again, I'm kind of worried that because it all went so fast, but at the same time, it's good to see them actually not losing the words to even digest what they should offer next.
Yep. So that's one Kickstarter project, and let's move on to one that was funded quite a long time ago, and that's Mighty Number 9. We got some new news about this finally, and we know that it's coming out in September on Wii U and a few other platforms, but the 3DS and, I guess, Vita versions aren't coming out until a little later.
And there's a good reason for that.
Well, I imagine it's kind of tough porting it over.
No, here's the thing. Do you know who is making the 3DS version or porting the 3DS game or the Vita game?
I know who it is, but I can't remember the name right now.
Abstraction Games.
That's it, yeah.
Abstraction Games has pretty much no glory to fame.
Really?
They have done some really small porting for the X, and they have made a few games that were not really that spectacular. And they are a company from my own country, so I'm not holding any back here. I'm just pretty much saying or stating as it is. I don't think they're a particularly great company. I think there are many other companies that could have chosen to port those Vita and 3DS games over with way more experience. Because they have no experience on the 3DS space.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely zero. And you could have chosen any other different company. Even like Renegade Kid offered at a very early stadiums to we would love to make the 3DS game. So why didn't you give them to them? Because they have way more experience on that front. With Abstraction Games, it's like the only thing that people would remember them for on WiiWare, and that is very obscure, is Potpourri.
Yeah.
Which is this really, really obscure WiiWare game that came out around the launch time of that service. So, if you want to cling on to the people who made a very mediocre but good-looking puzzle game, well, good luck with that.
Well, it is coming. Well, I actually don't know when it's coming, but apparently it's not coming that much later. I guess we'll find out fairly soon.
Yeah, I hope so, because it would actually be the good first thing that Abstraction Games put out. But to be a bit more serious on the console version of that, it's good to see that game is getting also a proper retail Wii U release, not only the other consoles but also Wii U.
Yep, they did announce that. That was one of the things they announced. So it's coming in September 15th in North America and September 18th in other territories. And like you said, it's getting the physical version. And it was also announced that Deep Silver is publishing the game. So that's kind of interesting, because I don't think Deep Silver published any Wii U or 3DS games before.
I know that Koch Media, the people behind Deep Silver, have published games for other publishers in companies within Europe. So technically you could say they have published Wii U and 3DS games. They have not just been of their own company.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they have done Sega, for example, with Sega All-Stars Racing and that sort of stuff. So they're not unfamiliar with Wii U and 3DS territory. Just that Deep Silver brand hasn't really been in that water before. But it's good to see. It's good to see that all the versions are getting their retail release, because it's something that they set out to do a very long time ago. It's not like I saw it coming from a long time ago. No, they said it pretty much at the beginning. They were going to do a physical copy at some stage. And it's good to see that the deal finally closes, although it does mean that the actual game will see a delay, which is sort of disappointing.
Yeah, I think some people are kind of bummed that it's coming later, and I feel like some people are kind of down on the game in general. to be honest.
Oh yeah, I feel that there's a lot of worry with that game, because I played the beta demo and I'm not sure still what to think of that game. I'm still wondering if that game will turn out really good at all. But I just want to see what the final game is like. And we have been waiting a very long time for that. And I feel that making us wait even longer is a bit of a bad move.
Yeah.
But I digress. Maybe I'm just overreacting a bit too much. But at the same time, I was like, come on, man, it has been this long.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to come this spring, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they said that one of the reasons why they're delaying it is because they can have time to, like add in extra features, like language stuff and more polish. But like you said, people have been waiting to play this for a while.
I don't necessarily think that the people who want to play an old school platformer care about additional languages.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that I know the game will be bad. I'm just extremely worried about that game.
Yeah, just gonna have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I backed that Kickstarter when it was originally released. So I feel that I have some say in stating look, it has been this long, I have the right to be kind of worried with this thing. But, we'll see. Hopefully things will turn out for the better, but I'm not sure at this stage.
We just have to remain positive for the time being.
I guess so.
Alright, let's move on to another Wii U game, going in a bit of a different direction, and just briefly I wanted to mention that Splatoon is getting a Nintendo Direct next week.
Yes.
And it was announced kind of early, because it's going to be broadcasted on May 7th, I think?
Yeah, that was extremely early. It's like the first time ever they announced the Nintendo Direct that early.
Yeah, so obviously we're getting that Direct. I don't think we're getting another Direct before E3, but at least this can kind of fill in some people who maybe missed out on some details and just want to see more footage.
Yeah, I think this will be like the final thing that they would release before E3, like the final big thing. Because they don't have anything else major that comes out before E3 next to Splatoon, so enjoy this presentation while it lasts, because then it's a bit of an hiatus until E3 time.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, do you think they're going to announce anything new pertaining to the game here?
If they have a Direct, they probably will.
Because, I mean, we've already seen so much of it, I feel like. We've seen the different multiplayer modes, we know about the single player, we know about Amiibo, so I'm just wondering what else they could have in store.
But they could always find some new things to talk about. I mean, they have said that they would update the game in the future with more content. Maybe they will talk about the first update for that. Maybe they will have additional things that we haven't seen before, or additional touches that we have to see. Maybe they will talk about that. It's, what? The thing is with Splatoon, I have the feeling indeed that we have seen a lot of that game, but we don't know what the full game is like. We haven't had really the experience of what the full game is like.
That's kind of true.
We've seen bits of it. We've seen how matches play out. We've seen how single player missions play out. And we've seen how the main menu works, but we don't know how that all comes together in one package. And maybe this Direct will give us the chance to do exactly that. It doesn't need to do much more, really. Because, again, we have seen most what the game will have to offer, at least at launch. So maybe it will be a good look at the full cohesive package, what it could potentially offer in the future, and maybe even some stuff that we haven't really heard about before. Maybe they have some stuff already planned, or have some additional stuff that maybe they will shock us. But it's better to wait until the Direct before we have a full judgment on it, because also at the same time, it could completely disappoint us.
Yeah, and if nothing else, Nintendo Directs are always a good time, even if we know most of the information, so...
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always good to see some new things about the game, even if it's small, one or two little bits.
Yep. Alright, let's close things out with just a brief talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X. And one of the big points I wanted to bring up is how paid DLC is now officially confirmed. We kind of already knew that this was going to happen because there was a download card in Japan that mentioned there's going to be paid DLC, but now we know it for sure, and at the very least, we're going to see 4 different DLC packages, which are 500 yen each, and they're going to have new characters and new missions, so things like that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this? Because, some people obviously aren't going to be happy about it because, Nintendo's announcing DLC basically a couple of days before the game comes out.
I feel it's kind of inevitable. I think they can't remove themselves from it. At the same time, I feel that Xenoblade Chronicles X has like the backing to do it. They are not necessarily holding contact back in that game. So I honestly feel that they have the full right to do it as much as they please. The only thing I take sort of issue with is that, again, they have announced it to my liking a bit too soon. Maybe a few days after launch would have been fine, but directly on launch, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not that bothered by the DLC because the game is just like huge, and you're getting a ton of content for your money's worth.
Oh no, I don't know it's huge. I played it.
You were lucky. Darn you.
I because we have way too much time still on our hands. I will say this: I played Xenoblade Chronicles X this week.
You are lucky.
Yeah. And I will say a couple of words on it. I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory because I feel that's not a good option to take because I want to leave people as much in the dark about that game as possible. I say it multiple times about multiple games. I will say it here again. When I usually do like a video that contains like story details or anything related that could spoil a little bit of the game, I will do one video and nothing more. That's it. So I've done the one video. If you want to watch it, you can. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I will say this about the game. If you played Xenoblade Chronicles, which I would imagine that people who want to play this game already have or currently are on their new 3DS. Mm-hmm. It is immediately a warm bath because you know exactly what you need to do with the arts and how that stuff is laid out. You will have a way better time and way less complexity to deal with than the first time you played Xenoblade. It feels immediately like you are stepping in a world that's inherently different, but at the same time, the gameplay is so familiar to you that you have a nice combination of the two, just enough to make it work as much. And you get a good sense of the feel of that world immediately, like 20 minutes in, because it gives you a look at the entire open field and your way towards New Los Angeles, and that stuff looks absolutely fantastic.
That's some positive impressions.
Yeah, I think that first hour of that game is extremely strong. I don't feel as much about the first hour in Xenoblade. I feel that it goes a bit too slow in the beginning, but this game starts off with a boom. And for me, that game doesn't end going on a boom because it just marks up the ante with all these different enemy encounters and things you can do in that world. That is what is so exciting about going constantly back to Xenoblade X. Not because it has online features or more quests for you to do or it has various characters. It's just the scope of that world and the things you can explore in it. And I feel that people who are hyped for the game have all the right to do so. I feel this is one of the rare examples where a hype actually delivers. I'm now like 15 hours in. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to play this week with that game, but I've enjoyed every single second of that 15 hours.
That is very encouraging to hear as someone who loves the original Xenoblade.
So there are my like 3 to 4 minute impressions of that game. There you go.
That is very much appreciated. I'm sure those who are listening and who are looking forward to the game will enjoy listening to that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the lack of a main protagonist, so to speak? Because, it's actually interesting. There was the Iwata Ask that came out earlier this week about the game, and there was talk about how they scrapped a whole bunch of content because, originally they were planning on having this main lead character, just like in the original Xenoblade, like Shulk, and they scrapped that and scrapped a whole bunch of content. so that players could control and create their own avatar.
I think it's way more fun to have your own created character run around in that world. I mean, there is some stuff that I feel is a bit limited in how you can create your character. Like, there's a limited options in how you can set up your eyes and your hair and such. But there is enough there to make something that you like. And while I do miss like the more story-focused approach of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, I feel that because there is a lack of a real main character, just because it's you, it just starts off quicker. There's a quicker connection there with that world, which again I really like, but I do understand like the need for a main character. It's only just I don't really miss it.
That's interesting. That's like one of the things I was semi-cautious about, because I actually like Shulk, and I kind of like that...
Oh, don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved Shulk. I think he is the main reason that Xenoblade Chronicles works and how that game is progressing. But at the same time, I do like how different that structure in Xenoblade is. It's not like a straight-up follow-up. They changed everything up.
Okay, well that's definitely interesting to hear, because I wasn't like down on the idea of, creating your own custom character and everything, but I was a little bit on the cautious side, so hearing that makes me a little less worried.
Here's the thing. Do you want a refread of the same ground, or do you want something completely different, but you still sort of recognize?
That's a good point. That's a good point to bring up.
Because in parallel, here's another game I actually played this week. Which and I know it's turning into Daan played these minutes for 10 minutes, but hear me out on this for a minute, because it actually raises an interesting point. So I wrapped up Bravely Second this week.
Yep.
And I already said this on Twitter, so you probably have seen this, but I will say it here again. I will make that point again. While the game is way more progression-friendly than the first, like the second half stuff that they made to sort of ruin the game for some people, it didn't necessarily ruin me, but a lot of people did, is not longer there. That's all great, but a lot of the side content just feels way too similar to the first. It has a nicer progression curve. It lasts you a good 40 hours, but at the same time, there is some stuff that they kind of refretted from the first game. And I feel that if it made a bit more chances, like Xenoblade X did, I think it would have been like a way stronger RPG than that first game. But I did enjoy it, but it kind of left me more wanting in the end. And I think that's the big difference. I feel because it's so radically different yet familiar, I'm having a way more interesting time because it does some new things. With Bravely Second, I liked it, but I was wondering, is this it?
That's an interesting parallel to bring up.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I guess you would say that you're very happy with Xenoblade Chronicles X so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's very, very good to hear. We got that, I don't even know what they call it. Was it Xenoblade Chronicles X video showcase? That was what we got the previous week?
Yeah.
That was kind of a tease, because some people were hoping we were going to get a release date, which obviously didn't happen, and it's still coming out later this year. But
I also just realized with giving this tease, I will have made more people angry than happy because they want to play the game right now.
On the bright side, your impressions are very positive, so at least people know that they're going to be waiting for something very good.
That's true, yeah.
All right, so I think on that note, we're going to wrap things up for the week. Just quickly, I wanted to mention something site-related for those who are listening to this and maybe miss it by the time this post goes up. And basically, I'm going to be putting up a survey on the site later tonight. And it's just going to be about a few general things, like how long you've been visiting Nintendo Everything, how you found out about us, and what you think about our news coverage and our features. So just a little bit of a mini survey. I think there's 12 questions, but you can skip all of them if you wanted to. I think I made all of them skippable, so you don't have to actually respond to any of them that you don't want to, but just wanted to mention that for those who missed the post, because the survey is actually going to be very important to finding out what you guys think of the site. So yeah, just want to throw that out there, and we will wrap things up on that note.
Fantastic.
So, Daan, just in case you want to throw it out there, what's your Twitter and YouTube accounts?
Sure, my Twitter is Nintendaan. That is NINTENDAAN. If you want to go to YouTube, that's the same thing with a one at the end. So you can find all of this information on the new homepage, which is nintendaan.com. You can find links to the YouTube and the Twitter there, so it is way easier that way, actually.
All right, that's great, and I will put all this in the YouTube description as well. I'll have the link to the survey, hopefully, if I don't forget, and I'll have this information on the main site as well. So, yeah, I think that covers everything.
Good.
All right, guys, so that's it for this week's Just a Chat, and hopefully we'll be back next week with another discussion.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.